Now let's welcome our main speaker for tonight, Frank.
I'm Frank Jones. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Patty for asking me to come and participate at the meeting, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be sober. And I want to thank, what is it, Angela? What? For sharing. Happy birthday. 10 years, and I just want to tell you that when I speak, I'm not trying to irritate anybody. And what I say is for me, and I'm not really trying to aggravate somebody or get the meeting all upset and mad at me, because I'm a loving individual, and I really want you to like me. That's really a concern of mine. And so the things I say, you just have to take them with a grain of salt, and don't take them personal, because I'm not trying to be personal with you. I love everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous. But so I just wanted to get that out of the way before I start. People have a tendency to get mad at me when I speak, and I don't understand it. But I'm just an alcoholic. I don't do any other 12-step meetings. I just go to AA. My sponsor told me if I can't work our 12 steps, I can't work any of the others, because all those other programs got them from us. So I'm not looking for anything to supplement my sobriety. I'm sober today. I don't take anything from the neck up. I don't drink O'Doul's beer. I don't drink Sharps. Any non-alcoholic beverages that contain alcohol, I don't drink any of those. And I don't take antidepressants. I don't take anti-anger medicine. I don't take things that going to help me get through life, because in Alcoholics Anonymous, what I've been taught is the 12 steps in our big book. If I apply those in my life, I'll be able to get through life okay, and not without problems and turmoil and anger and resentment and all the rest of those things. But I had to come in here and learn to live life without using chemicals, because I used alcohol for a long time with all those things. So I don't take any of those things from the neck up, and whether you do or you don't is none of my business. I could care less, and because it has nothing to do with me. I'm only concerned with my sobriety and the people I sponsor, so that's all I'm concerned with. And I have no reason for being an alcoholic. My mom and dad aren't alcoholic. They didn't chain me to a bed or lock me in a closet, or I'm not from a dysfunctional family. I don't blame my mom and dad for me being an alcoholic. They never held a gun to my head and said, "Frank, we want you to drink and make an ass out of yourself or we'll kill you." So I really can't blame other people for me being an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic because I drank like a pig. And when I didn't drink, I acted like a pig, and that's the bottom line. I can't blame my wives. I can't blame my kids. I can't blame the boss or the job or the police department or the military. I can't blame anybody for me being an alcoholic. Nobody ever forced me to drink alcohol. So I can't blame them for that. No one ever forced me to act the way I acted. And I get a little tired of hearing people at the podium blame everybody and everything for all their problems. As long as they're a victim, I don't think they can get well, but that's none of my business either. I'm not judging them. I would never do that. I kind of let everybody live their life. I let go and let God, but that's just how it is. And anybody not offended yet? I thought I'd check on that. But I was born in Illinois to great parents, and I had a great childhood. I'm not from a dysfunctional family. If my family was dysfunctional, when me and my two brothers left home, the family got back to normal. And Mom and Dad were married to each other for 50 years and provided a great home and a good environment to grow up in, and I knew right from wrong. And I went to school and I played sports. I played Little League Baseball and Pony League. I played football, basketball, and track in high school and won 9 letters. Had an offer to go to college and play basketball, and they were willing to pay my way, and that's not why I'm an alcoholic. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I took that inventory, I read it to my sponsor, talked about my defects of character, and my shortcomings, not my family's, and I found out growing up, and I never analyzed my childhood. I'm not one of those that's searching for an inner child to nourish. If I ever find that little son of a bitch, I'll choke him unconscious, I can tell you that. He has caused me a lot of problems in my life, and when you hear my story and my drinking and everything, you'll find out that my inner child wants to come out all the time, and he wants to break your toys and cause mayhem and problems in the world. So I've been trying to be a mature adult now for almost 58 years with no success whatsoever. And so that's the best I can do. So, but I found out growing up I was a thief and a liar and a cheat. And I stole things and gave it to people so they'd like me. And I lied because I could be anything I wanted to be when I lied about stuff. And I've been everything. When I was drinking, I was an airline pilot for a while. I drove trucks cross country. I was a biker, a gynecologist. I've done it all. And I quit high school, for Christ's sakes. And you can do anything when you lie. So you don't like the truth. It's just out there and you can't change it. And I'd lie today if I didn't have to make amends for it. But and then I cheated all the time because I've never wanted to work hard or anything. I've wanted somebody to give me, lend me, can I have, let me borrow, leave it out so I can take it or steal it. And so that's how I was. I'm a lazy, slothful, hateful person. And that comes naturally to me. I don't have to work at it. And I got to work really hard at treating people decent and kind. And that's even in sobriety. I haven't been sober very long, but 21 years. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get this program and do the best I can outside in the world that I have a hard time living in. But those things didn't make me an alcoholic because I was a cheat and a liar and a thief as a kid. And I wanted to be a macho guy. And I mean, check me out. I look like Mr. Peepers, for Christ's sakes. And I'm not like you guys around here and stuff in Venice, Santa Monica, Mar Vista here at the Marina Center. I'm not macho. And I wanted to be like you guys, except I was afraid of the dark. I couldn't tell anybody about that. I hated that. That made me feel like a wimp. I know you guys haven't felt like a wimp, but I did. And I couldn't tell anybody about that. I was ashamed of it. And after ball practice, I'd hang out on Main Street with guys with ducktail haircuts and black leather jackets. And it wasn't a fashion statement back then. It meant something. And these guys rode motorcycles. And they were bad dudes. And they carried zip guns and switchblade knives and bicycle chains. And they had rumbles and beat hell out of each other with chains. And that used to give me an adrenaline rush and scared the hell out of me. And I'd watch you guys do that, and it didn't even bother you. You just went on and hit the next guy or shot at him with your zip gun or hit him with a chain, and it didn't bother you. And I hated that, because I'd hit a guy with something, I'd feel sorry for him. And I'd go home and worry about if that guy was hurt. Now, that's how I was before I ever took a drink of alcohol. I was a wimp, and I hated being a wimp. I absolutely hated that feeling. I felt inadequate. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of the dark, and I was just ashamed of that. My first drink, I was at a party in Danville. It was a hot summer night. All the guys from the ball club was there with their girlfriends, and my girlfriend brought me over this big iced tea glass full of slow gin and 7-Up. And I didn't know what slow gin was, never heard of it, but it was red and it had ice in it and it looked good. It looked like strawberry Kool-Aid. That was my drink of choice. And I chug-a-lugged that glass of slow gin and 7-Up down, and nothing happened. A lot of men speakers, I hear them when they take their first drink, they all get 6'4", 240 pounds, and their pimples fall off. And you know, that didn't happen to me. I drank it down, gave her the glass. My girlfriend said, get me another one. She brought me another one. I drank that down. You know, I didn't throw a bottle of wine in a paper bag and shoot down to Skid Row in an old trench coat. I didn't plan on hanging out down on Main Street in Danville and stuff. I didn't talk to my school counselor about being an alcoholic. And I just drank that stuff. And I wasn't drinking for the taste of it. I wasn't drinking for the effect of the alcohol or what alcohol was doing to me or for me or any of that. I wasn't drinking for any of those reasons. I was drinking for one reason and one reason only. All my buddies at that party were drinking. That's why I drank. I drank because all my buddies were drinking. I wanted to do what they were doing. They were all necking and hugging and munching their girlfriends in the corner, dancing, laughing. They were having a good time, and I couldn't do that. I'm self-centered. I'm self-conscious. I don't want to look like a fool. I don't want you to say no if I ask you to dance. I don't want to talk to you. You're going to think I'm stupid. So I'm just going to hang out on the wall and drink and be cool. And I thought if I drank before long, I could do what you guys were doing, and that's why I drank. I drank about a gallon of slow gin in almost 30 minutes. Was no big deal. But about 20 minutes after that last glass of slow gin and 7-Up, I found out where slow gin got its name. I got drunk as hell. I went into a blackout. I got taken home that night. They dumped me off. The next morning when I come to, I'm puking red stuff up all over the bedroom. I'm sicker than a dog. I got a terrible hangover. My head hurts. My stomach's upset. My head's throbbing. I'm puking up chips and dip and crap I'd eat that night. Was the birthday cake good? But I'm throwing this stuff up and I'm in a lot of trouble, and something else is funny. I can't remember how I got home that night. I didn't know what a blackout was, never heard of a blackout. I didn't know until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and found out a blackout's an indication you have a problem drinking. Normal drinkers don't have blackouts. I didn't know that. I didn't know normal drinkers didn't have blackouts. I thought everybody drank and experienced what I did. I had nothing to compare it with, and I come into Alcoholics Anonymous and found out that that was an indication I had a problem drinking from the first time I drank. Had a terrible time with blackouts. I used to wake up with things in bed that had its hair all matted down, and it should have been tagged by the Humane Society. And you wouldn't ordinarily go with something like this. And so that's a blackout, and that's a bad deal. Don't laugh, Angela, I didn't marry it. I don't have beautiful kids with it. This was a beast. But that's a blackout, and that's an indication I had a problem drinking, and I missed 3 days of school with a terrible hangover. I went back to school, and the guys told me that night I was dancing and laughing and funny and had a good time, and some guy said something, and I punched his ticket, and I got a lot of recognition for that, and I felt macho, and when they told me that, I felt a part of those guys. I felt like I'd had a good time. I felt like it was cool. I'm part of these guys. And the other thing I got from that night is from back then until tonight, I don't drink 7-Up anymore. That stuff will cause you to have blackouts and throw red stuff up, and I just can't chance it in sobriety. And so I don't drink 7-Up, and this is a disease of denial, and so of course I blame the 7-Up. And it couldn't be the alcohol, and I didn't turn into a blazing alcoholic after that and get the shakes and study all when I didn't drink. I drank when I could get it. When I drank, I got drunk. When I drank, I got in fights. When I got drunk, you dare me to do something, I go do it because that's what stupid drunks do. They make an ass of themselves. And you make a fool of yourself, and I continually did that when I drank, and I did embarrassing, stupid things as a kid when I was drunk. And the fights got worse because I got bigger, and then 2 weeks before I graduated, I had this offer to play basketball at this college in the Midwest, and they were going to pay my way, but I have a committee in my head that talks to me and gives me advice. And the committee started talking, and they said, what if you don't make the basketball team or get grades good enough to stay on the team? Well, that scared me, and I don't want to go to college and look silly. I don't want to go to college and look stupid. I don't want to go to college and look bad in front of all those mature adults. I don't know about you, but I always want to look good. And so I made a keen alcoholic decision with the help of my committee. I quit high school 2 weeks before I was supposed to graduate. Now, that made sense to me. Can't go to college if you quit high school, and so I quit. About 2 weeks later, I made another keen alcoholic decision. I joined the Marine Corps. If you're afraid of the dark and you're a wimp and a wussy, going in the Marine Corps is a bad deal from the jump. I should have went in the Army. I didn't know that. Well, you're in AA now. Be all you can be, okay? Work the steps, go to meetings, call your sponsor. But I joined the Marine Corps, and I found myself on a train going up to Chicago to get sworn in, and I'm sitting next to a guy with a ducktail haircut and a black leather jacket, and he's drinking out of a little brown bottle, and I want to hang with this guy in Chicago because I'm afraid it's the big city. And so he's drinking, and he offers me some of his bottle, and he says, do you want to drink? And I said, yeah, and I chugged like 3 or 4 big mouthfuls of that stuff, and it was whiskey. And I don't know how you drank whiskey at the age of 17, but I sprayed that crap all over the seats in front of me, and I had whiskey running out of my nose and snot, and I couldn't breathe, and I looked bad, and I felt like a wimp, and he's looking at me funny, and so I wiped off my face, and I handed him the bottle, and I said, that stuff is pretty good. And I just wanted to fit in with him. That's all my life I've wanted to be a part of and fit in, and we got sworn in, and I went through boot camp down here in San Diego, and I was afraid and homesick and lonely, and I just sucked it up and put a facade out there and acted like something I wasn't, and I did that all my life. And I got through boot camp, and I was in the infantry at Camp Pendleton, and the Cuban flap went down in October '62, and we shot down the coast and through the canal and went down there in the Caribbean for that. And then after that was over, we headed to the Far East for our 13-month tour. And first night I unpacked, and the guy said, Frank, we're going to get drunk. You want to go with us? And I felt a part of those guys and felt macho. I'm a Marine now. I'm 17-year-old, and I'm in the Far East. I'm cool. And so I went out with those guys to get drunk, and we bought a Typhoon 5th of sake and run us about 75 cents, held about 2 gallons, and they're passing that bottle around, chug-a-lugging it, and the guys started their male bonding ritual, slapping each other on the back and hugging each other and talking trash. And bottle got to me, and I chug-a-lugged 4 or 5 big mouthfuls of it, and I don't know how you drank sake at the age of 17, but I puked that crap up all over their shoes, and I had sake and snot running out of my nose, and I had tears in my eyes. I couldn't breathe or see, and they're laughing and pointing at me, and I felt like a fool and a wimp, and I hated that feeling. And the bottle come around, I chug-lugged it and threw up some more, and they're still laughing, and I started to feel like a dummy. And You know, I held enough sake down and something funny happened. And I don't know what alcohol did for you, but what alcohol did for me is when I held enough of that sake down, I looked at those 5 or 6 guys I was drinking with and I realized something. Those guys are punks. I don't know why I'm hanging out with these losers and wimps. You see, when I drank, I didn't need anybody or anything. I could drink on my own. I didn't need anybody. I went out drinking. I'm in a bar. I'm in there drinking. Another Marine from another unit. We're shooting pool. He said something that evidently made me mad, and I hit him in the face with a pool cue. And, you know, it looks cool in the movies. And I know some of you guys, I can tell by looking at you, you know you've had your dealings with the police. And so you know how your stomach gets butterflies and you get scared because you're going to jail? And you know you can't outrun them? Yep, most of yous know, and that's the feeling I got that night. Now, this guy's laying there bleeding, I'm scared to death, and so I split out of the bar, and I run through the alleys in Anoka, and I went to another bar, and I sitting there, and I ordered some beer and a couple of shots, and I drank those down, and something funny happened. All that fear of going to jail and being afraid of the MPs and everything went away. I wasn't afraid no more, and I started to brag to the Marine next to me how I hit that guy with a pool cue. Now, I don't know about you, see, but when I drank, I wasn't afraid of going to jail. I wasn't afraid of getting locked up or beat or bills, paying them, being responsible, mature, treating people right. I wasn't worried about any of those things that adults do when I drank. And then I'm drinking, and I look down at the end of the bar, and there's a Nason sitting down there, and I'm a sucker for a pretty face, and women have been able to take me for everything I've got all my life. And she slid up next to me and asked me to buy her a drink, and so I did. And then she started telling me the story about her sick mom that needed surgery, and it broke my heart. And so I gave her some more money, and her and I trudged the road of happy destiny to her hooch. And I'd like to stand up here and tell you what a great time we had that night and what a macho guy I was, and she probably still remembers it to this day. But it was over too quick for me to remember it, and that embarrassed me, and that hurt my little macho ego and stuff. And she split to clean up, and that hurt my feelings, and I was embarrassed. And so I stole my money back out of her headboard, and I set her little house on fire. And made sense to me at the time. You got to cover up the crime and get the hell out. And I went back to the base. I passed out, and at Reveille the next morning I come to, and that hangover's there, and I'm puking up everything I'd eaten, drinking in the Ville that night. Sicker than a dog, and I have no recollection of what had happened that night. I didn't remember a doggone thing about that night. I'm in the head throwing up, and the guys are saying, "Hey, Frank, MPs are looking for who hit that guy, man. He was hurt." And they told me about a fire in the Ville that night, and what I felt was embarrassed. I was ashamed of that. My father hadn't raised me to act that way, and I don't know where that came from. And I didn't know how I was going to rectify that with that woman, and I really felt bad about that. And I found out a secret that morning in Okinawa. I opened up my locker, and somehow a bottle with a big red dot had got in there, and that's Akadama wine. And I took that wine down that morning and unscrewed the cap and chug-a-lug 4 or 5 big mouthfuls of it, and I didn't puke it up. So I drank a little more wine, went out to formation, and by the time the formation was over and I came back in the barracks, my headache was gone and my stomach settled down. I wasn't sick no more. I didn't have a hangover. Now, I don't know what that tells you, but what that tells me is if I drink in the morning, I don't have to be sick. I went right back to that locker, got that wine out, drank a little bit more, and about 20 minutes later, I started to brag about hitting that guy with a pool cue. I started to brag about setting that woman's house on fire. I got macho when I got drunk. I don't know about you, but I got big. I got really big, and I didn't care about anything. And I became a morning drinker and a daily drinker at the age of 17, and all my money went on booze and the women in the bars, and I became a partier and a bar fighter because I'm afraid, and I don't want you to know I'm afraid, and the way to do that is to be a fighter. So I learned the technique of ambush because I don't like pain, and they had big glass ashtrays back then and big thick bottles of beer, and I'd hit people with those and split, and started getting in trouble in the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps frowns on that even in 1962 and 63, and they'd give me a stripe and then they'd take it away and then they'd restrict me to my base and then they'd restrict me to the barracks. And if you'd have walked up to me and said, "Frank, you know every time you drink you get in trouble," I could have given you reasons why alcohol had nothing to do with it. I don't know about you, but this is the only disease in the world that's killing you, and your head's always blamed something else. And so what I would think is if that guy in the bar hadn't have said that to me, I wouldn't have hit him, so it ain't drinking, it's him. You see, it ain't my fault, it's his fault. He needs to learn to shut up. He don't know who in the hell he's talking to. And if the duty NCO hadn't have told me to shut up and hit the rack, I wouldn't have smacked the duty NCO. I'm not stupid, but he can't talk to me that way. I'm a human being, I got rights, even back then. And so what I did all my life till I got to Alcoholics Anonymous is I blamed everybody and everything for all my problems. It was the wife's fault, it was her, the kids, it was the job, it was the Marine Corps, it was them, it was it. It was never me. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, the old-timers in my home group snapped me up, said, if you want to see what the problem is, Slim, go look in the mirror. I walked in there and looked, and it was me standing there. I said, ain't nobody in there that's at fault. And they told me that that big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, those 12 steps in there in Chapter 5 are made for me to work, not the people around me. My wife don't have to work this program. My boss at work don't have to work this program. Police department, CHP, Marine Corps, kids, job. Nobody has to work this program but me. It's my program. It ain't theirs. They don't have to shape up for me. People don't have to drive the way I want to drive. They don't have to act and do the things I want to do. I got to take care of me. Everybody else is none of my business. I didn't know that. I tried to manage everything when I was out there drinking. Self-centeredness. That was me. That was my problem. Me, me, me. I am the mighty I am. Take care of me. Lend me. Can I have? Let me borrow. I'll take. Leave it out. I had to learn that I had to take care of me. My family's none of my business. And then what happened was I ended up getting in a lot of trouble in Okinawa. The cab drivers over there, they have their meters set and they rip us servicemen off. Any of you that's been there know that. And they're a bunch of thieves, and I hated that, and so I was going to get back some of my money. I decided to rob one of those guys. Well, he fought back. And what happened was I held his head down on the pavement, picked up a rock the size of a softball, and beat his face in with it. He almost died. I was in a lot of trouble. They put me in the brig. My father found out stuff through letters and everything, and through a series of things, he flew over to Okinawa, and I was 18-year-old now. I was in the brig and facing a lot of time, and I was in a lot of trouble, and what he did is he paid for that man's reconstructive surgery and paid for his retirement and gave that cab company money and met with the commanding general, and all I did is beg the Marine Corps not to throw me out. And what happened was after my court-martial and the paperwork went through to get me released from that brig, I'd spent almost a year locked up in that brig. If you'd have told me that was behind trying to get money to drink on, I'd have said, you're crazy. Drinking ain't got nothing to do with this. Those guys are ripping us off, and I was just getting back my money. I had to come to AA, do that inventory, look at my defects of character, my shortcomings, my motives, and my actions, and found out I'm just a liar, a cheat, and a thief, and I'll do anything I can to get money to drink on. And I had to take the responsibility for that. And what happened was after I got out of that brig, they sent me to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I was a private. I met a girl that had graduated high school. I married her, took her down there with me. She wants me to be a husband, and I'm a bar drinker. I like the intelligent guys and the beautiful women. Got to hang out in the bars. And I don't know what you do to go out, but I'll tell you what I did is I'd start a fight with her. And I'd make it look like it was her fault. And we'd have that cuss fight that alcoholics have. Now I can't stay there and drink in a noisy place. I got to get out in the bars. And so that'd give me my excuse to get the hell out of there. And I'd go out in the bars and drink. There in Jacksonville, and somebody'd say something. I'd get in a fight with them, hit them with something. They'd call the Jacksonville police. I'd go down into another bar. I'd sit in there and I'd start drinking. And then me and Honey lock eyes. And, you know, I gotta be validated. I don't feel like a man. Macho guys do this. And her and I'd trudge off to her place and do what we got to do to validate me or her or both of us. And then I'm laying there and I'm starting to sober up and I'm thinking. And then you should never think and drink. That's a bad deal from the jump. And I think about that wife at home, and I realize that it's not her fault. Now I feel guilty, because I am guilty. I feel guilty because I'm a liar and a cheat. And so I can't go home and face her now because I'm going to feel bad. I know it ain't her fault, it's me. And so I stop and have a couple of shooters and a beer, and my head says, well, it's just what guys do. This is a macho thing. And so I trudge on home now. I'm cool, and I walk in, and she says, where have you been? I hate that question. Now I got to lie to her. Well, I wouldn't be a liar if she didn't ask those questions. So it ain't my fault I'm lying. She needs to learn to just shut up and quit asking those damn questions. So we're having another cuss fight, and I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and what I found out is I'm too immature to be a husband. I didn't know that. All my intentions all my life was to be like my father. Good man, decent man, married to my mom 50 years. I never seen him act or do the things I was doing. My intentions were good. My actions have always sucked. What can I tell you? And that's what I get judged by is how I act, but I can't convince me of that. And then we have a kid, and I don't know how to treat kids. Kids, they cry, they make messes, they crap their diapers and shit. I hate that. Why ain't kids born about 10, 12-year-old already trained? You know, I don't understand that, and that aggravates me. And so I'd shake that kid when she'd make a mess, and I'd throw her in that crib, and she'd cry, and the wife and I'd fight. And then now they're both crying, and I'm crazier than hell, and I know I'm a bad father. And the only thing that'll take those feelings away of being a bad father is a couple of drinks of alcohol. What the alcohol tells me is what you got to do you got to raise these kids right. They got to know right from wrong. They got to do this and that. And all that did is validate my actions and come into Alcoholics Anonymous and found out from you people that kids are just little people. That's what they do when they grow up. Make messes, spill things, break things, move things around. And I was told to never put my hands on my kids unless I'm going to hug them. Never to raise my voice in that house. Because that ain't a bar. And I don't talk to my kids like I do to the people out on the street or in the bars. People told me to quit cussing at home. Kids don't need to hear that kind of language from their parents. They don't need to hear the F word and all the other words that I use in the bar, and I was told to shut up and never raise my voice or cuss in that house again. I had to learn in Alcoholics Anonymous how to be a father. I didn't know. I could walk around acting like a good father, putting on a good show, but at home, you know, I got to work the program there. That's where the rubber meets the road. You can stand up here. I hear a lot of speakers stand up here, and they're just wonderful. They get a little bit of time in Alcoholics Anonymous. Hear them all the time in my group, and they're just walking with God hand in hand. They're just floating along. They're just beautiful people. Never do anything wrong. Don't gossip about people. No rumors. Don't cuss around again. Don't do this with their kids. Everything. I just hear them, and I think, God, you're just wonderful. And I got to tell you, I know you can't tell. I'm not like that. I'm still intense. I still get angry. And just because I'm over 21 years sober, I'm not a good father today. Just because I'm sober 21 years, that don't give you a right or a claim to anything. I'm not a good man today because I'm sober for a little bit. What I'm trying to do today is be a good member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I try my best to live outside these rooms as if people in Alcoholics Anonymous are watching me. And I'm not always successful at that. I ain't going to stand up here and kid you. I don't want to come back and make amends to you. But I got to tell you that if you're new in here tonight, you don't have to do this program perfect. You don't have to be wonderful. You don't have to get all wonderful with God and go floating off with him. He will get tired and stop and have a beer with you. What you got to do is be able to be a human being. You got to be able to make mistakes. At least I do. I got to be able to make mistakes. I got to be able to walk through those mistakes, take my responsibility, and try not to do them again. That's what I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. I learned that the 12 steps in that big book are a set of tools for me to use to live outside these rooms and act like a halfway decent human being. And I got to tell you, I don't do that very well. I am still intense and angry and crazy, and those things still happen. I have the same emotions and feelings I had the first day I got sober. But what I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous is try not to react to every thought I have or injustice I perceive. I try to treat people the way I want to be treated, and when I don't, I make amends to them. And I hate making amends, and so I try not to treat them that way. But I make a lot of amends. I wear the 10th step out. And there's been a lot of good things and bad things in my sobriety that's happened, and life gets good and bad, and bills and IRS and death in the family and disease and everything else, and problems with relationships and kids, and all those things happen, and fired and not job and no money and all this crap here. But I can tell you the one thing in my life that has stayed consistent and never changed in 21 years is my commitment to Alcoholics Anonymous. This doesn't change for anybody or anything. This comes before my wife, before my kids, before my job, before anything, Alcoholics Anonymous. Because if I don't have this, it's only a matter of time before I lose them. Because I'll drink again. And when I drink again, I'm going to act the way I used to act. Because I haven't learned how to act in here when I'm drinking. And so I'm going to be the same ass that I was before. And so I have to try to keep Alcoholics Anonymous first. I have to try to the best of my ability to stay involved in AA and stay in action, because this ain't a come in here and sit on your ass program. If somebody tells you to bring the body and the mind will follow, they're lying to you. In my opinion, your mind isn't going to follow you in here if you sit on your ass and lazy. That's what my sponsor told me. He says you got to become involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. The book says it's an action program, so you have to do things. You have to have commitments at these meetings and shake hands and start acting like a human being. And he told me don't come in here and just suck the life out of the meeting like 90% of the people in AA do. He said, give something back. It's saving your life. I was too macho for that when I got here, and I know there's somebody sitting here tonight thinking, he's full of shit. I'll sit here and get this program. No, you won't. They're not going to add a chapter in the big book to you. They haven't added a chapter in the big book to anybody currently in AA, so they're not going to add one for you. All you're doing is fooling yourself. If you're an alcoholic of my type, maybe you're not. I don't know. Or better yet, take a pill. That'll fix it. That'll get you over. And but you know, I didn't know how to be a father, a husband, or a man, and then after all that crap happened, I had to learn how to treat my kids, and then I got called in the CO's office. What they did is made me a sniper and sent me to Vietnam. Now, Vietnam ain't my problem. I got to tell you that. I get tired of hearing servicemen whine about that crap. I've been to a lot of meetings. I still go to at least 5 meetings a week. Have commitments to those meetings. My commitment's to be there, show up, and do what I got to do to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous in good standing. And I have yet to ever see a North Vietnamese Army regular walk into a meeting or a VC, take a vet out at gunpoint and make him drink. I just can't blame those people then. You can use all that shit you want to do all your life, but you got to get over it and move on. I was told that, and that's what I've had to do. Vietnam ain't my problem. When I got there, I was afraid. I was scared to death. I couldn't tell anybody about that. Macho guys ain't afraid, except I was, and I was ashamed of that. And I couldn't tell anybody about that till I got sober, long time in AA. And the things I seen made me sick, and the other Marines were handling it, and I wasn't, and I felt like a wimp, and I put 151 in my canteens and drank that. It took the fear away. Made everything okay. Now I can go out and do what I got to do to show everybody how macho I was. I was there in 67, 68, and up at Quezon and Cantien, and I was a sniper working with Bravo 3rd Recon, and you know, and then I do those things, and I did a lot of bad things to a lot of people over there to show the other Marines what a tough macho guy I was, because that's what tough macho guys do. They're going to take advantage of people, and they're going to do things that ain't right, and justify it and rationalize it, and I did that, and then I felt bad about it, and the only thing to take that pain away is a couple of drinks out of my canteen, and then that says, hey, this is what guys do, you're cool. And so alcohol lied to me again and said everything I was doing is okay, and so I kept doing it, and I did a lot of bad things to a lot of people over there, and I'm not proud of that. Just what alcohol did for me, and saved my sanity. That's what alcohol did for me, and March of 1968, during the siege at Quezon, what happened was I got blown up over, I got wounded, and I come back to the States after being over there 14 months. My son was born to me while I was there, and my daughter's growing up, and they want me to stay home and be a husband and a father, and I got to get out in the bars and talk about that crap. That's the only claim to fame that any Vietnam vet's got, and he wants to rap about it the rest of his goddamn life. And so I want to get out there and do that. I got to be a part of that macho talk, and so I'm drinking, and now we're having a cuss fight, and I'm just sick of her running her mouth, and I'm drinking, and I finally said, shut up or I'll kill you. She didn't believe me, and I walked in the closet and got the gun out I had left home for her while I was gone, and I walked out in that kitchen. And I didn't believe in God when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd done too many bad things to too many people, and you people told me there's always been a higher power in my life. And I look back over my life, I can see that's true today, but I'll tell you what, I'm trying to get the safety off that gun. My daughter's pulling on me between my legs saying, don't shoot my mommy, and we're screaming and cussing, trying to get the safety off that gun, and I hit a pin at the base of the receiver, and I pushed the pin in. It was the firing pin, and that gun went off, and the bullet went through my hand and down between my legs where my daughter was standing, and the bullet didn't hit her. And I'm a blessed man for that. I could have accidentally shot and killed my daughter that day in a drunken rage, trying to get my way, trying to have my wife do what I said. Shortly after that, she divorced me. I couldn't believe it. I fired one shot, shot myself, and she split. I felt like a victim. I drank over that. She took my kids. I'm a veteran, for Christ's sakes. I deserve better. And she split to save their lives and hers. I was a drill instructor in San Diego, taught new recruits. They left their locker open. I stole their money. Thought I'd teach them a lesson. I needed that money to drink on. I'm a thief. I abused those recruits and hazed them, and I thought that's what made them macho and made me a macho drill instructor. I'm not proud of that. That's where alcohol took me. 2.5 years on a drill field fighting in the bars in San Diego and showing my ass. I had another keen alcoholic decision because my committee had met again. I volunteered and went back to Vietnam for a second tour. I was with the infantry this time. I was with 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. I was a platoon sergeant, and this time over in my 13th month, I got shot up in an ambush, came back to the States. 11 years active duty in the Marine Corps. They want me to come back after lunch. I can't do that. I got to drink now to keep the demons away. I got to drink now to keep the guilt and the shame down. I got to drink now to stay even and keep my sanity. And so after my 11 years in the Marine Corps, my enlistment was up, I got out. I did what macho guys were doing back then. I became a police officer here in Southern California. Freeze! God, I love saying that. That still gets me hot. You could bet your life I never said that. I wanted them to run, and I was a violent police officer, and I'm not proud of that. That's where alcohol took me. I can't tell my partner in the police car I'm afraid of the dark. I can't tell him there's demons in that alley. If we go down there and I told him what they look like, he'd think I was crazy, but I know they're there. Something's down there that's going to get me. And so before I go to work, I drink to take that fear away. But now when you scare me when I'm on the streets, I get violent. And I was a violent police officer where I worked, and I'm not proud of that. Today I get to go to Chino and Wayside and these places, and I go in there and speak. I make my amends to those guys and tell them what I used to be like. And again, I try not to treat people that way. I'm not always successful at that. But what happened was I got married again. We had a daughter. My wife got pregnant. I just don't feel like a man yet. I got to be macho, and what happens is I start to have an affair with my partner. My partner's a female now. Makes me no difference what your preference is. Mine is female, and we're having an affair, and she found out somehow my wife's 8 months pregnant, and I don't know how she found that out, but she took offense to that, and she shot me, and that ain't even funny. That's just, I'll tell you, if any of you are dating this woman up here, make sure she ain't armed. She will gun your ass down, baby. I'm going to tell you that right now. They will shoot you because she shot me in the head. All these women think that's cute, but she wasn't such a damn good shot. I'm still here. See? She was a piss-poor shot. What can I tell you? But that ended my police career. I'm not going to get gunned down in a police car, and what I did is I got a real estate license. And if you sit here tonight and you think that money will fix it, property will fix it, prestige will fix it, if you're an alcoholic of my type, money doesn't take away anger or guilt or shame or fear or desperation or anxiety. Money doesn't fix those things if you're an alcoholic. I made a ton of money. I made 6 figures my first year. I made over 130 grand. Bought a brand new Cadillac. I paid cash, bought my wife one. Had a house on a 1/4 acre, put a swimming pool in, 3-hole putting green. My kids wore designer clothes. I had diamond pinky rings, gold chains, medallions and shit. I looked like some of these people in AA, for Christ's sakes. And I had a Mr. T starter kit before he was ever on television. And you know, it didn't fix it. It didn't take away the anger and the guilt and the shame and the desperation and the anxiety. And at the age of 36, I looked around and what I'd worked all my life to get was gone. The house on the 1/4 acre, the pool, the clothes, the cars, the jewelry, the wife, the kids had split, and everything I owned was in a cardboard box in the back seat of a stolen car. And that's a hell of a note for a former police officer. And I ended up homeless, because I guess when you ain't got a place to live and shit, you're homeless. We can kid ourselves, but you're homeless. If you ain't got no place to live, you're homeless. So I had to start saying that at the podium. That's what my sponsor told me. I didn't have anywhere to live, so you're homeless. And I ended up passing blood and very sick when I went to the bathroom, and a woman I worked real estate with seen me one day, took me into a doctor after she cleaned me up. And they gave me a physical, and he called me in when he got the results, and he said, Mr. Jones, he says, you're addicted to alcohol the way a heroin addict is to heroin, and if you don't stop drinking, you're going to die. He says you got a hole in your throat from vomiting all the time, cirrhosis of liver, and all the crap that goes along with drinking and acting and treating yourself the way I was doing it. When he told me that, I stood up and I shook his hand, and what I felt was relief, because I was tired. I'd been busy out there doing a lot of things to a lot of people, and what happened was I walked out of his office, I went straight to a liquor store, bought a 5th of whiskey and a case of beer, drank as hard and as fast as I could, and to make a long story short, my parents found out I was dying on the street and wouldn't take care of myself, and they had me committed. I couldn't believe that. And you know, if I could have just got out of the restraints, I'd have went and talked to them about it, but you couldn't. And they pumped me full of vitamin B and magnesium to help me with the withdrawals, and some of them I remember and some I don't. I remember the sweats and the cramps and seeing little gnats and bugs and fires in the room that wasn't there, and had a terrible time. And after about 10 or 11 days of that, they let me out of that room in that bed, and what they did is made me go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that hurt my feelings because I'm not an alcoholic. I haven't been arrested for drunk driving. I ain't never been arrested in public. I mean, I used to have a job and a lot of money and a big car, and I used to be a big deal. I'm a veteran, for Christ's sakes. I'm not an alcoholic. And they made me go to this meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I walked in, and there was a bunch of losers in there just like you. I couldn't believe it. Absolutely astonishing. You're everywhere I go. And it's the same thing as tonight. You come in, everybody's shaking hands at the door and shit, and hugging and kissing and shit, and how you doing, and singing happy birthday to her and all this shit here, and it's so cute. And I hated you. You see, you were wearing clean clothes and you had your makeup on. The women, not the, well, some of the guys got their makeup on, but that's none of my business. And but you all look clean and decent and healthy, and you look good, and I knew you could not have been and done the things I had done and the places I had been and how I had treated and walked through people's lives. And what you told me to do is get your coffee, shut up, and sit down. And that hurt my feelings. And then you said, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. If you want to drink, Frank, come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I heard that over and over again, 90 meetings, 90 days, go to AA. And then I'd leave the meeting and I'd come back and I'd look at you and I'd think, you guys didn't make the money I made. You wasn't as hip as me, as macho as me, as slick as me. You didn't have the cars, the jewelry, the women, nothing. And you looked at me and you said, you know what, Frank, you ain't got any of that shit now. Get your coffee, shut up, and sit down. You're homeless. And you didn't care if you hurt my feelings. You told me the truth. It's the only place in the world where they put principles before personalities. Or if they don't, they should, because that's what this program's all about. It makes no difference whether you're male or female, black, white, Hispanic, Oriental, gay or straight. You're welcome in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you want help and you stick your hand out, somebody here will help you if you're trying to do something for yourself. It's the only place in the world where that happens. And what you told me to do is go to 90 meetings in 90 days. If you want to drink, go to AA. And I didn't want to hear that crap because I'm too macho. I can do it on my own. And I know there's somebody here tonight sitting here thinking that. You're thinking that I'm full of crap and you don't have to do what I have to do, that you can do it on your own. And you'll come to a meeting when you want to and do it how you want to do it. And if that continues to happen and your mind convinces you of that, we'll be here when you get back, if you live. That's all. Because you notice that every meeting you go to, the same number of newcomers raise their hand. And you go back every week and it's the same number of newcomers raise their hand at every meeting, but the meeting never gets any larger. That should tell you something when the meeting doesn't continue to grow and grow and grow and overflow. We don't all stay here. We all convince ourselves we don't need this. We all convince ourselves we don't have to work these steps. We don't have to mop this floor. We don't have to stack chairs. We don't have to take the trash out. Our heads convince us of that. And so before long, when you start taking and taking and taking and sucking the life out of AA, you're gone. Or you have to find yourself some other way to live without going insane. And then eventually then what happens is that leads to drinking. And everybody I've talked to, that's what happens. I'm not making that up. That's just the way life is in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so what happened was, if you're an alcoholic of my type, what happened to me is might just happen to you if you don't get yourself a sponsor and get plugged into Alcoholics Anonymous, go to these meetings and start taking this program very seriously and putting it first in your life. What happened to me might happen to you if you don't plug in. Because I'll tell you what happened to me. I walked out of the hospital and I stood out there in the sun and I started crying. And all the things I had done all my life, I was as sober as I am tonight, came down and started sitting on my chest, and I didn't have alcohol or anything to take that pain away. And it was choking me out, and I didn't want to take a drink of alcohol. I haven't had a desire to take a drink in over 21 years. I have had a desire to commit suicide. I have had a desire to take my own life. When you have no hope, when I'm standing out there in that sun in Indiana and I have no place to live, I have no clothes to change, I have no money in my pocket, no food, no nothing, no family, and I see all the wreckage sitting in my face, and then I have no sponsor to talk to, no fellowship, nobody in the meetings, I don't have a higher power, I don't have these 12 steps, I don't have Alcoholics Anonymous. Where do you go and what is your answer to those problems that are insurmountable and eating you up and that pressure's there? So my only thought is suicide. And so I didn't go to meetings. I come back to California with my kids and my wife. I found them. We moved into a garage in Newhall, California in a vacant field. And we slept in that garage on the floor and we ate out of a styrofoam chest with government cheese and block bologna. Kids put water on their cereal, and I didn't go to meetings because I'm too cool. I don't need you people. I'm macho. I can do this on my own. I have willpower. And I know there's somebody here tonight sitting here thinking that. And I feel sorry for them. Because what happened to me might happen to you if you don't plug into this thing. At 6 months without a drink of alcohol, I'm driving on the Hollywood freeway in a stolen car. I'm looking for work. And this guy, I honk at him and I tell him to get out of the way, and he don't get out of the way. And I don't know, maybe here in the Marina that doesn't piss you off. Maybe you just pull around and wave at him and thank him for slowing you down. Well, it irritated the hell out of me, and I rear-ended the guy. And I chased him off the freeway, and when he stopped his car, I walked up to his car and I had a .45, and I stuck it in the window of his car right in his face, and I said, if you ever drive that slow again, I'll kill you. I did not want to drink that day. I wanted to take that man's life. I don't know if you get that angry. I don't know if you get that desperate. I don't know if you get that anxiety-ridden. I don't know if the world's pressure closes in on you and you get that way. That's the way I was that day without Alcoholics Anonymous and a sponsor in this program. And then at 10 months without a drink of alcohol, I'm in Alpha Beta up on Lyons Avenue, and I'm buying me Pepsi and cigarettes. I'm not going to buy my children milk for their cereal. You see, I'm a taker. I don't know about you, but I've never been a giver. I'm not a charitable, loving person. I'm selfish and self-centered, and I'm going to get mine, and to hell with those kids. And so I'm standing there, and it says 10 items or less, cash only. And my head says, count the lady's items, and I count her items. And this woman in this 10-item line's got about 13 items. Now, maybe here in the Marina, in this area of Santa Monica, you let the little woman go on through the line violating the store law. That started to aggravate me, and I started to think about it, and I thought, is 12 eggs 12 items, or is it just eggs? Is 2 half gallons of milk 2 more items, or is it just milk? And by the time I looked at all her shit, she had about 40 items. Now, that's a felony, and I know it because I used to be a cop. More than 40 items in the 10-item line's a felony. And I started to get crazy about it, and she broke a checkbook out. And I said, you can't write a check, you need to read the sign, you can't write a check, it says cash. And she turned and smiled and said, I'll be through in a minute, Sonny. And I told her I've never been a Sonny lady, and I ain't Sonny right this damn minute. And I said, you're not going to write a check, and when I get angry, I got to put my hands on you. And I took her eggs and milk, and I threw that shit all over Alpha Beta. And they called the sheriffs on me. I didn't want a pina colada that day. I wanted to rip her blue wig off. I hated that old broad. Maybe you won't get that way if you don't go to meetings. Maybe you don't get that way if you don't have a sponsor, fellowship, 12 steps, or God, I don't know. That's how I got. And at 13 months, and I'm about done, I'm in this real estate office, and Mike Gill walks by and says, Frank, how you doing? I hadn't been to any meetings in 13 months. I was a little intense. And I told him, I said, that's a personal question. Why are you trying to pry into my private life? I said, I'll tell you how the hell I'm doing. I don't want anybody else to hear. And I grabbed him by the throat, and I pulled him on the desk, and I started choking him, saying, how in the hell do you think I feel? I had a nervous breakdown. Maybe that won't happen to you. Maybe you're cool. I flipped out. And I got to tell you how God worked in my life when I didn't believe in God. The only time that guy in that office had been there, he was an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, was that day. They pulled my fingers off this guy's throat, laid a card down, and he said, I know what's wrong with you. He said, I can't help you, better go see this guy. And they took me back to that garage, and they took all my weapons out of the garage, and they sit with me for about 8 or 9 days. And I cried, and I have no recollection of those days, and Bill Daly told me about them later. And they took me down to this man's office, and I sit in his office, and I cried. And what that man told me that day has saved my life and sanity up to and including tonight. And this is what he told me. He said, Frank, you haven't had a drink in over 13 months. Drinking's not your problem right now. What you've got right now is a living problem. You need to find a living answer to your living problem. And he says you'll find it in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. He said if you go to those meetings, there's a bunch of people that's walked down that path before you got there, fall in behind them and do the things they're doing. He did not tell me to come in here and sit on my ass. He said, do the things they're doing, and you'll never have to feel suicidal, homicidal, go to jail or nut house or drink ever again one day at a time. He told me to get a higher power, and I said, I don't believe in God. And he said, whoever puts the moon out and takes it down, pray to them. I can do that. He told me to come in these meetings and have respect for Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, that program's going to save your life. You need to respect it. He said, sit in the meetings and pay attention and listen. It's an hour and a half out of your life. You do it if you had cancer. And this disease will kill you just as quick as cancer. He told me don't talk during the meetings or chapter 5 or the 12 traditions. He said respect the other newcomers that are sitting around you. He said we don't care if you stay, but we want them to be able to hear what they need to hear. So he told me to start respecting something, and I had to start respecting Alcoholics Anonymous because I didn't respect anything in my life. I didn't respect my wife, my kids, the job, the Marine Corps, nothing. And I had to start respecting Alcoholics Anonymous, and I take this program very seriously. This program has saved my sanity and my life. He told me to get commitments at those meetings and don't suck the life out of it. He told me that a commitment means I show up unless there's a death in the family and it's mine. He said a commitment is not something you do between social events, like going to the movies or a dance. A commitment means you show up at that meeting. He said if you've never done anything you've ever said you're going to do your whole life, he says you need to do it now. And so I started taking Alcoholics Anonymous very seriously, and what's happened over the last 21 years is my life has changed, and it's gone up and it's gone down, and I've had good things happen to me and I've had bad things happen to me. I've had death in the family. I went unemployed 2.5 years. I lost everything in sobriety, good credit cards, everything I worked all my life to get. When I was 14 years sober, a drink, a fix, a pill, or a shot, or a snort wouldn't have changed it. So what I did is plug into Alcoholics Anonymous. When there's a crisis in my life, I don't run from AA, I run to AA. Because all my answers and my help are in these rooms. When I need mental comfort, I come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't go to a movie. I don't sit and rap at some club and dance. I don't sit around thinking about me, turning my heating blanket up to mommy. I come to Alcoholics Anonymous because this is where my life is going to be saved. Everything in Alcoholics Anonymous isn't great. Like I said, I've had death in the family. I've had problems. I've had a son in prison 13 out of the last 16 years. I have a relationship with all my daughters now, and I've made amends. I've worked that 4th step. I did the 5th step. I did the 9th step. I did the 10th step, and I continue to do it. I did all the things in Alcoholics Anonymous I'm supposed to do. My kids are successful in spite of their father. They did it in spite of me, not because of me, because I'm in AA. Because I'm in AA, I learned to stay out of their damn business. I allowed them to grow up and be young ladies, and they're all successful today. One's an attorney for a medical corporation. My middle daughter's getting her master's in May. She teaches 5th grade. My youngest daughter's a senior in San Diego. She's going to be a veterinarian, and all those ladies did that in spite of me, not because of me. I take absolutely no credit. It's Alcoholics Anonymous that taught me how to act around my family because I didn't know how to act. And if you're new or used tonight, you don't have to remember a damn thing I've said because it isn't important to anybody in here. It's only important to me. I need to remember what I used to be like, what happened, and what my life is like today, and I have a good life. I'm centered. I try to act decent outside these rooms. I try to represent AA, and I put AA first in my life. And so if you're new or used, I think the only thing you should remember tonight, if the person wasn't talking next to you, is that first line of chapter 5 that was read in this meeting. And that first line says, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path." Thank you. Sorry I'm late.